This is the regularly scheduled city council meeting for Monday, April 15th. Tonight's meeting is obviously in council chambers and live streamed on YouTube, and it is after 7:30. And our next regularly scheduled meeting will be on May 6th of 2024. With that, Ms. Hamilton, if you'll call the roll for attendees, please.
Mr. Abernathy.
Here.
Mr. Gaffney.
Here.
Mr. Huzet. Ms. Knappett. Mr. Malta.
Here.
Mr. Myers.
Here.
Ms. Warden. Here.
We have a quorum. We do, however, have two council members that are not here this evening, one due to a family death and another to a family birth. So at that point, we're happy for one, we're sad for the other, but at this point, we miss them both either way. And so at this point, we will have a number of items this evening that we will not be able to move on because we don't have enough for a majority. So with that, at this time, I'll ask you to stand and join the members of council in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion from council to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Abernathy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Gaffey. All right. With that, all those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, communications from the mayor and administration. Good evening, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of things. First of all, updates from activities been going on since we met 2 weeks ago. On April 5th, we met with representatives from the Emblem Club, who is once again providing U.S. flags for the community, actually the upcoming Memorial Day services. We'll thank them for, I don't know how many years they've been doing that, but it's been many. That same day, Joel and I attended the State of the College luncheon at the College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences. I always say that you can kind of tell how someone's living in Wooster by what they call the place up there in the hill there, but now it's pronounced CFAS. They have, it was a remote conference, not out of Columbus, but there was pretty good attendance there. And we just got a lot of great things going on through that organization, and reason for excitement, and certainly going to be a long-term presence in our community. April 8th, you may have heard, we had an eclipse earlier this week. I was out of town. I was experiencing the thing on the west side of Cleveland and the ball game, so that all went up, but I've heard that everything was running very well. I don't think we had any incidents whatsoever. And I think everybody was saying Northeast Ohio is going to be just a disaster because of all the traffic and all the visitors. And I don't think we had any incidents locally, and I think that kind of up to Cleveland back was as uneventful as could be. April 11th, we met with Majors Tom and Vicki Clark of the Salvation Army to discuss the Salvation Army's role going forward with community housing issues. I think we got some clarity on that, and that same evening was the Housing and Homelessness Forum, and Jonathan Millay presented that, and we spotted a panel on that. Some of you were there, and others are probably good on that. April 12th, WBC organized a community acclamation meeting with the representatives of Walsh Manufacturing, and they invited the city to participate. I thought that event came off pretty well. Again, this is a new company coming into town that really are saying all the right things about when we become community partners. We met with representatives from the city of Oroville, the Lincoln Schools Career Center, the Chamber of Commerce, and I really think that this is going to be a great fit for our community. Earlier tonight, Bull Huddle did an event down in the square called the Amazing Race, and they had about 200 participants signed up, and Sarah gave me a big responsibility. She said she wanted me to help kick things off when I get down there. I got some notes together, and I said, "What do you want me to say?" And she said, "I want you to say go." So as far as things I can tell, I think I successfully pulled that one off. And they're in the midst of that right now, so we need to do a little reading up on that. But they have, I think, 5 spots to stop at down around the square area. And they had, I think Frankie Romich donated the laptops. And if everybody that completes all the stops, going to get a free, laptop's not the right word, it's a tablet, Chrome tablet. So still very generous, and a lot of excited kids and families down there. Looking ahead on Wednesday, the Wayne County Commissioners lined up a visit to Wooster by Senator Landis, and they were giving a tour of the Lyric Theater. And there's some extra state funding out there that's available, and we would sure like to see some of that end up back in Wooster, some of our tax dollars back, so keep your fingers crossed on that. On the 18th is the WDC annual meeting for breakfast, and then later that day, you don't have to eat at home at all if you're busy, because later that day is the 30th annual Wayne County Child Abuse Prevention Community Lunch. So I think there's still tickets available for that. On the 19th, we're participating in the Right to Read program at ISU School. I know a number of members, the administration involved in that, and I think they probably reached out to council as well, so some of you may be doing that. Next week, we have a meeting with President Paul from the College of Wooster to discuss some shared issues. Also a chance, she's new to the job, I'm new to the job, so we're going to get a chance to know each other a little bit better. May 1st, Joel and I will be presenting an overview of city operations to the Chamber's leadership Wooster class. So that'll be noon up at the Service Center, I believe. Something to put on your calendars. This is, if you, as a refresher, 2 meetings ago, I think it was 2 meetings ago, we passed the recreational marijuana zoning change. And the effect of that, because it's a zoning issue, it kicks it back to Planning Commission for their review and a recommendation back to council. So that is on their agenda for May 2nd. So again, there's no public hearing at that meeting, but if you're curious to see what happens there, there's open public meetings like anything else, you can show up, welcome to attend, and then with their recommendation, they'll come back to us. We'll wait and see what that recommendation might be, but that's the way things work there. Then finally, May 7th, we are going to have a ceremony in the square to recognize Siemens' 75th anniversary, and in particular their contributions to the Wooster community, including the roof structure for the pavilion. So we've got a plaque that's at least on order, it hasn't completed yet, but we're going to install on that. And again, the question pops up, okay, why are you recognizing them when we have a lot of companies, some longer issues now, but a lot of them, have hidden benchmarks in terms of their longevity. And we thought this was kind of a special occasion because they actually donated a big part of that facility, so we had a chance to do that. Looking at tonight's agenda, because we're 2 members short, as Mr. Sanders said, we can only act on the things, the council can only act on the things on 3rd reading. And those things are the 5 ordinances related to the issuance of municipal bonds, sponsored by Mr. Abernathy. Jen Warden's got the remaining items. I think some of those she's covering for Barb and I've been doing that, all of them. So I appreciate Jen for stepping in and doing that for Barb. I know I probably ain't one who would have done so fast, but she's the one who got the call, so thank you, Jen. A couple quick review on some of those items that again we're not going to be voting on tonight, or we're not going to get to, but 2024-08, we seek to increase the bid limit from 50,000 to 75,000. It's on the 2nd reading. We tried to explain, I hope we did a good job with the last meeting as to why we think that this legislation not only move projects along, but actually save the city money. There's also some discussion on the council about the possibility of doing the other piece of that, which is raising the threshold at which things come to council for a vote from $50,000 to $75,000. That, to the administration standpoint, is not as big a deal. And we're happy with it either way. It's more an issue of how busy you want your agenda to be. You can take the threshold down to 0 if you want. Some smaller communities do vote on every bill that's made, and you can choose that. I think probably it's not more efficient for an organization of our size, but that's a council decision. Joel has passed out, and Mr. Scott prepared it, but just for your consideration, not tonight, but if you do want to go down that road and address that second piece of the issue, addressing the threshold for Lincoln's County Council, that's some legislation that you might choose to do. But again, administration's priorities on the first piece, because we see that as the ability for our administration and our managers to operate more efficiently and save the taxpayers money. Second piece is only a time savings from a council standpoint, and a question of how far in the weeds you want to get on those things. Second item is ordinance number 2024-14. That has to do with cleaning alcohol outside of Food Chalet, and then, of course, Jen has talked about that before. That's now under construction, and she'll touch on that again. 2024-15 involves Dairy Queen and surrounding properties. At this time of year, the subject near and dear to everyone's hearts. Again, I do want to leave Jen to a full explanation on that. And 2024-30 is kind of a one-off little situation on timing, and again, they'll talk more about that. Two things I do want to address separately that are on the agenda that happened since our last meeting, and I'll shut up and let you get on. First of all, we had a kind of a disturbing incident at one of our public meetings a couple of weeks ago. This involved a committee of community volunteers. One of the people in attendance at the meeting was upset with the decision made by the committee, which is something that the public's entirely entitled to do. Nothing wrong with that. He then later took to social media to denounce committee members, and again, it's a free country, you can say what you want on social media. Where I thought he crossed the line is that he got in the face of some council members or committee members following the meeting and followed them out to their cars. And I thought that was a step too far, and I think he's aware of that. Our committee volunteers, and I know a lot of you have served on committees before, and to some extent it's a thankless job, but at the very least you shouldn't get beat up for it. I don't mean physically beat up, but there's so much work that happens outside of what happens at city council, outside of the mayor's office. We really work through committees, to some extent, whether it's the tree committee, the Parks and Recs committee, things like that. So I'm very protective of our volunteers, and you're free to come and express your opinion about them, but there's a line there, and I thought this time that line was crossed. Finally, I need to extend an apology to all those that were adversely affected by the conditions of Oak Hill Road last week, and particularly those residents whose ability to get to and from their homes was impacted. We know that almost every road construction project will result in some inconvenience. What happened last week went well beyond that. The contractor we hired was obligated by contract to maintain an acceptable riding surface for the residents who use Oak Hill to get to and from their homes. This would be the people in the new homes in Spring Run development, as well as for older homes or existing homes on the east side of Oak Hill. Our contractor apparently failed to take into account both the rain that was in the forecast and the heavy vehicle use that takes place there due to the construction of others. As a result, the road conditions were bad or rough at the beginning of the week before the rain came. After the rains came, it became impassable for probably 48 hours. We are going to hold the contractor liable for some contractual failings. However, this was a failing on many levels, and there's plenty of blame to go around. In the short term, we failed to adequately supervise the contractor. Heavy rains in Ohio in April should come as a surprise to nobody. Yet they apparently snuck up on everyone involved last week. That should not have happened. For that, the city owes an apology to everyone affected. In the long term, we're having discussions about how best to prevent this type of situation from happening in the future. Overall, I think our engineering department does a very good job of supervising the many, many different projects we get going at any different time. And if Joel's bi-weekly reports tell you anything, it's the scope and scale of the efforts that are going on any given day of the year. In most cases, those projects are well-planned, well-managed, and well-executed. This one was not one of those cases. There's no getting around that. So we'll acknowledge that feeling, make apologies to those affected, and do our best to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Ms. Hamilton, we have no petitions? Nope, all right. And we have one person that has signed up for communications from the public regarding an agenda item, which is Mr. Malta. You want to go ahead and regale you. Let us know what you're thinking about.
All right. Well, obviously, I want to talk about Christmas Run Pool. Many of you probably don't know, it opened in 1948. That's almost as old as I am. I started working there in 1962 as a seasonal employee, and for the next 47 years, I was either a seasonal employee or Parks and Recreation, which was to oversee Christmas Run Pool. So I have a lot of heart in that swimming pool. And I know Chris over here, my nephew, is probably thinking right now, well, Uncle Chuck, you should have retired a long time before. But anyway, there was a time in my career at Parks and Recreation when I thought that we should run those pools like a business, and if we can't make a profit, we should at least break even. Well, we never came close to that. And I came to the realization at some point that it's not a business. The city is not a business. It's a service. And Christmas Run was a gem of that service, and we should remember that. And what I'm encouraging you to do, and I know the last two readings, there's been some hesitation and delay. Please, no more hesitation, no more delay. This project, even though when the pool closes this August, you got about 20 months to do all the things that have to happen to open that pool in the spring of 2026, including funding, final funding, design, demolishing, site prep, and then construction. 20 months is not a long time to get that done, and you know there's always going to be certain things that get in the way. So my hope is that you will no longer delay anything that has to do with that pool, because the community is really counting on that to happen. And it's going to be closed for one summer, which I think we all understand that and understand why that's going to happen. So I'm just encouraging you, no more delays. Please keep moving forward on that project. And I know the city will work hard to make that happen once it's finally approved. And I have two final thoughts. When you do close the pool for the summer of 2025, I think there should be some kind of a supervised transportation for children from Christmas Run area or even the Knights Field area to get to Freelander in a safe manner with supervision. That's something you ought to think about happening. And the last thing I want to say is, Ashley's not here tonight, Ashley Hirschberger, but we hired her 17 years ago. Probably the best hire we ever made. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next item is committee reports. We had one by Mr. Abernathy. If you want to give us an update of what your committee discussed here previously, that'd be fantastic.
Well, Mr. Doherty gave us the state of the financial condition of the city for the first quarter. It was riveting. Anything you want to add to that, Mr. Doherty?
Just that pretty much all components, revenues are right on budget, so there's not really hard expenditures.
All right, that's it for that.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, we'll move into unfinished business, which the next 5 items are on 3 readings. They are all related to bond issuance items. We have had a lot of conversation on them, but at this point, we do need to give them their third and final reading. So if Ms. Hamilton, if you'll start off with ordinance number 2024-09, please.
Ordinance number 2024-09, an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of bonds in the maximum principal amount of $4,030,000 for the purpose of paying costs of improving and expanding the city's sanitary sewerage system by constructing and reconstructing sanitary sewers, force mains, and lift stations, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and allowing for immediate enactment.
All right, Mr. Abernathy, the floor is yours.
All right. This and the four after it are all bond issues, so I'm going to, they're not going to get lumped together, but I'm going to ask questions that are going to relate to all of them. So, when we talk about municipal bonds, how long does it take to, do you think, to be able to take these to market and to obtain the funding? Because between the five of them, we're roughly looking at like $18 million. How long do you think it takes to schedule them out and obtain all the funding?
So that's a good question. It will take me until 20, I will go to sale, I do an online auction on, I think May 27th, another bond market closes, it's on May 21st, sorry, Tuesday, May 21st, so it'll be an online auction.
Okay. And then we had talked, I think on the first reading, we were thinking maybe right around 3.5%, and you're still feeling pretty good about those rates at this point. We've seen some market fluctuation, so we're feeling good about that. What are we looking at as far as a term on the different
Okay.
bonds?
That's another good question. So with respect to the ordinance you just read now is for a little over $4 million worth of sewer improvements that's paid for from the TIF proceeds. Spring Run Sanitary Sewer, West Middletown Gravity, and Christmas Run Sewer Replacement. Those will be 25-year maturities. And then the next one relates to the Melrose improvements for property owner share of special assessments. It's $565,000. That will run 15 years, and again, property owners will be paying those. The third ordinance is Christmas Run Pool, and we're going to finance that for 15 years. And then then there is $4,655,000, another 25-year. That is for roundabout at Middletown, Oak Hill. It's for also improvements to Middletown from the roundabout up to Concord, approximately. And then from roundabout, go to basically where Spring Run is, or for the church.
So your TIFs are going to be about 25.
Yes, they are 25.
The pool will be 15.
Yes. And then
The Melrose
sewer
will be
15 will be a 20-year issue.
And then the sewer later, okay.
Yeah.
So for this one, the 4 million-ish will be 25.
Correct.
Okay. And then my last question, this will be related to all five, is I think the big question that comes to any citizen of the city of Worcester is when we take on, this is a big chunk of debt.
Sure.
And we do know that roughly 9 million of the debt that we're looking at is going to be paid through the TIF at the north end. That leaves about 9 million additional debt. The one thing I think any person with a taxpayer within the city of Worcester wants to know is, man, are my taxes going to go up to help pay for this? Could you give a reassurance that we're not going to be coming back to them to ask for tax increases to help pay for it?
So yes, we did not factor in any tax increases for the Christmas Run Pool, or actually any of these. The TIF has incremental increases in taxes because they're approved, but that's not an additional tax, so to speak. It's the same tax rate on the properties, but that will generate revenues and taxes, but no income tax increases or any other user fee increases were considered in these.
Okay.
Good question. I guess another place to look would be when we did the budget before the year, so back at the end of last year, under he did the budget, he put in there the expected debt service, assuming that if the budget were to pass, all of these issuances. So you can see in there projected out in the coming years what the revenues and expenditure including the debt service. So what you see in there is there is absolutely no look at increasing
And Mr. Montgomery, part of this is, I don't want to call it theater, but I think it's very good for the public to also hear from their administration that, hey, we're not going to come back and ask for tax increases. So part of what I'm asking is just to hear it out loud so those that are watching from home and those in attendance can hear it, so.
Good question.
Okay, so those are the primary questions for all 5 bonds, but for this particular ordinance, this is for up at the north end, Oak Hill Milltown, to get the sanitary sewage system up and running. I have no additional questions or comments. I'll open it up for comment or questions from my peers here on council. Hearing none, I will motion to approve.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Abernathy on ordinance 2024-09. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Meyer. Ms. Hamilton, if you'll call the roll for the adoption?
Gaffey.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Abernathy.
Yes.
Warden.
Yes.
Malta.
Yes. All right. Motion, ordinance is adopted. Ms. Hamilton, if you'll read ordinance, the next ordinance, 2024-10, please.
Ordinance number 2024-10, an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of bonds in the maximum principal amount of $565,000 to pay the property owner's portion in anticipation of the collection of special assessments heretofore levied of the cost of improving Melrose Drive between certain termini by grading, draining, widening, paving, resurfacing, constructing curbs, gutters, a multi-use path, sidewalks and driveway approaches, installing storm sewers, catch basins, manholes, water mains, fire hydrants, and traffic control signs, and acquiring any real estate and interest therein required thereby, altogether with the necessary appurtenances thereto, and allowing for immediate enactment.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Hamilton. Mr. Abernathy, the floor is yours.
Okay, so this is for a bond issued for $565,000. I believe Mr. Dordia said this will be for a 15-year term on the municipal bond. This will be paid for by the property owners down in the Melrose area. I believe the work is already complete. Am I not? Okay. So again, I think this is pretty self-explanatory, and I open it up for questions, comments from the rest of council. Seeing none, I motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Malta. Ms. Hamilton, please call the roll to adopt.
Myers.
Yes.
Abernathy.
Yes.
Warden.
Yes.
Malta.
Yes.
Gaffey.
Yes.
All right. Ordinance 2024-10 has been adopted. Ms. Hamilton, if you'll, when you're ready. A lot of papers.
Ordinance number 2024-11, an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of bonds in the maximum principal amount of $5,500,000 for the purpose of paying costs of constructing, furnishing, equipping, and otherwise improving a municipal swimming pool and related recreational facilities and improving the site thereof, and together with necessary and incidental appurtenances thereto, and allowing for immediate enactment.
All right, Mr. Abernathy, the floor is yours.
This one I do want to make an additional comment on. And Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you for your comments you made earlier about the committee members who had some trouble after a meeting, because I have been approached in public several times over this. It is very apparent that this is a very, very, very passionate community regarding this pool. And there's been obviously a perception that I'm against this pool. And I've been at dinner and approached by people in public. Being in public places and being approached, telling me I better vote for this pool. I guess that's what I signed up for. I'm a public figure, and this is what I signed up for. So I didn't realize that this community was that passionate about a pool that I'm going to be approached in an aggressive way in public, but this is where we're at. So, again, Mr. Dordia, 15-year on this, so we understand that it's going to be a 20-month process, closed down for 2025, reopen in 26. So, any additional comments or questions by council?
Mr. Abernathy, I'd just like to say I'm obviously a supporter of all of the pools, mostly because I use them, but also I've been involved with the planning and thinking about and considering whether or not to replace the Christmas Run pool for probably going on 7 years. I think we've been talking about this. Mayor Reynolds, prior to his involvement in city government, I think talked to me on the side, hey, make sure we get that pool done, because my wife would be very upset if we didn't. And that was when we were just like a regular guy. So, yeah, I just want to thank Mr. Malta for coming this evening and showing his support. Again, I've been supporting this particular project for some time. I'm going to go one step too far. I always do, and ask that Ms. Hirschberger, and I've already talked with her, that maybe we at least consider what it might cost in the planning process of doing something with the pool house. I know the structure is fine, and currently we are not considering that. We're just going to replace the pool. All I'm saying is it might give more design options on how we replace it. I'd hate to spend this amount of money and then in 2027 say, I wish we would have done that or this. So. Yes.
We are getting preliminary numbers and options for that.
Okay.
That's like phase 2.
Okay,
So
that's just an option.
And when we said do this design, make sure you accommodate for potential future.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Well, that's one of the things I was just hoping we were going to at least leave it open for consideration, because in the grand scheme of things, it would be a small incremental amount of money. So that's all I have. Thank you.
So you have a motion for us there, Mr. Abernathy?
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Meyer. Please call the roll on the motion to adopt, please.
Myers.
Yes.
Abernathy.
Yes.
Warden.
Yes.
Malta.
Yes.
Gaffey.
Yes. Okay, motion's adopted. We now have a pool, or at least
One step closer, right?
one step closer.
That's true. We have the money.
That's
We
right,
still
we
haven't
have the
actually
funding.
approved
That's absolutely
building the pool,
we still
which-
haven't- That's absolutely correct.
So, yeah, and Mr. Abernathy, I apologize if people got in your, I never got the feeling you were against the pool. I got the feeling you were concerned over the amount of financing and the debt the city was taking on based on your background and experience. I think that should be understandable as chairman of the finance committee. That's kind of your role to look after that. So I appreciate your comments this evening, and again, I hope no one was terribly abrasive to you, because I didn't take it as you were against this particular project. You were just watching out for our dollars. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Myers.
All right. Ms. Hamilton, if you'll read ordinance 2024-12 for us, please.
Ordinance number 2024-12, an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of bonds in the maximum principal amount of $4,655,000 for the purpose of paying costs of improving streets and roads in the city, including Oak Hill Road, Milltown Road, and Commerce Parkway, by purchasing a right-of-way, constructing, reconstructing, widening, grading, draining, paving, creating a roundabout, and otherwise improving, together with all necessary and related improvements and appurtenances thereto, and allowing for immediate enactment.
Mr. Abernathy, the floor is yours.
Okay, this is the ordinance for the bond that will actually pay for the actual streets and the roundabout. 15 years for the bond for $4.6 million. That will be
That's
paid.
25. That's
Oh,
part of
this one's
TIF.
25.
That's part of
I
TIF.
apologize. I
That's
thought
25.
25. I'm sorry, that's right. Our TIF project was 25.
Yeah.
So this is a 25-year, $4.6 million, paying for the actual roundabout in the streets, paid for by the TIF funds. So I don't really have much to say about this one as well, because it is collateralized through the TIF. So that's a good thing. Anything that any other council members wish to add?
Doesn't look like it.
All right, motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Warden. Ms. Hamilton, please call the roll to adopt.
Abernathy.
Yes.
Warden.
Yes.
Malta.
Yes.
Gaffey.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
All right. Ordinance 2024-12 has been adopted.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
If I could interject real quickly in response to that question, that 25-year payback is the worst-case scenario. Depending on the amount of revenue generated through the TIF, it could be a shorter, and again, we don't want to sell it to the council or the community as being shorter than that, but certainly the potential is there, particularly with some of the other projects up there that look like they're coming on board there, so.
And we had mentioned earlier, I forgot to, I apologize, but we did mention earlier that there'll be call provisions in this debt so that if two things occur, if interest rates are advantageous, you can refinance them, which we have done, I think, on 2 occasions in the last 22 years since I've been here. And then if there would be a quick accelerated payback of the or tip funds, I could call them with that. So plan that ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll move on to ordinance 2024-13. If you'll read that for us, please, Ms. Hamilton.
Ordinance number 2024-13, an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of bonds in the maximum principal amount of $3,100,000 for the purpose of paying costs of improving and maintaining the city's sanitary sewerage system plant, including upgrades to the biosolids, biogas, and headwork systems, together with all necessary improvements and appurtenances thereto, and allowing for immediate enactment.
Again, Mr. Abernathy, the floor is yours.
All right, final ordinance for me this evening. So 3.1 million, maximum years 15. I'm trying to recall from the last meeting and the previous one, is this the sanitary and sewage station that is not operational at this moment, or is not at full capacity? Okay, so this is very important. We want to get this thing up and running and operational. So obviously, it's a third reading. I don't know if there's much more we need to discuss on it, but I will open it up to the rest of council for questions and comment.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to ask that we have Ms. Hamilton read these last 5 ordinances again at each meeting, because she's not so damn good at it.
It's killing me.
I'm sure she'll be happy to have them done.
Okay, I would say appurtenances every day.
I have nothing for it.
With that, motion to adopt.
All right.
I'll second.
All right, motion to adopt, seconded by Mr. Gaffney. If you please call the vote. Ms. Hamilton.
Abernathy.
Yes.
Warden.
Yes.
Malta.
Yes.
Gaffney.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
All right. The terrible 5 have been done. Thank you all. And it's important, I mean, it's all important, this conversation. I mean, as long as this took, it didn't take, the time was not wasted. So at this point, I'm glad we've had this conversation. And at this point, I mean, between, I think everyone up here got an education. Hopefully, everybody watching it on TV has been adequately informed. And at this point, it was well worth the effort.
And
So,
if I could just add, you know, I know sometimes going through a 3-reading process is not fun, but when we are talking about adding $18 million worth of debt, I think that it's worth going through a 3-read process so everybody has an opportunity to ask questions and speak. So I thank you for your guys' patience through the process.
no, absolutely. All right. Well, speaking of third readings, we're going to have one here that's going to get its second reading this evening. So with that, Ms. Hamilton, if you'll read ordinance 2024-08 for us, please.
Ordinance number 2024-08, an ordinance amending Chapter 160, bidding procedures and contract requirements of the codified ordinances of the City of Wooster, Ohio, by increasing the amount of the limit for competitive bidding.
And this one will be introduced by Ms. Warden.
Thank you. So this is, as Mr. Sanders said, is on second reading. It's an ordinance by the city to, or a request by the city to lower the limit for competitive bidding from where we currently stand at $50,000 to $75,000. At our last meeting, we talked, I think at length about this, and we also, I know Ms. Knappich asked some pretty good questions about, you know, what the overall cost of this is compared to, you know, the benefits of continuing to keep this limit at $50,000. It sounded like we were all in agreement, but we wanted to leave this open for the opportunity for the public to weigh in. And in that time, Mr. Montgomery has also prepared, or I believe it was Mr. Scavelli has prepared basically an amended ordinance that would, well, I guess I'll just encourage, I haven't had a chance to read it because I was just handed it, but I encourage you all to read this. And again, since we don't have enough people, we're not going to move this to third and final anyhow, so we've got another couple weeks to look it over.
Okay. Any comments from council?
Just kind of confirm it, the threshold is currently $50,000 to go to bid. It would be to $75,000 So essentially, the difference would be, instead of going through a advertised bidding process, it would take it to more of a, hey, give us a quote, instead of going to a bid. So it just, instead of losing out on an opportunity for people to come in and give us a quote and say, hey, this is what it will cost, you don't have to have an advertised bidding process.
Right, and there were a couple questions asked, I think Mr. Mullen asked, and Mrs. Knappich asked a few questions. But we did confirm answers to those, so one of the things, John Rice called some contractors and said, when we get to the point of a 50 to 75,000 in the current environment, several of them said, well, we probably just wouldn't bid it, because if we have to bid it, we got to do at least a book like this that has all the contract, provisions in it. And so for that amount, they're like, I don't know if I'm going to mess with this. If we did, we're going to add about 10 to 15% to our bid price just to mess with it on a small project. And just for us to do this, it costs us about $3,500, about $60 million to call this up. And then in addition to that, they'd have to get bid bonds, so that could be, another $500 to $1,000, if it's just 10% of the cost. So you add all that up, on projects of that size, it adds 10 to 15% to the project. So for the bidding piece, that's what makes it really efficient, plus the time. And the only difference between the amended one I put is there's one paragraph missing, which created that second tier.
Okay. Well, we'll take this piece up again. We'll say that it's had its second reading this evening, and we'll take this up when hopefully Ms. Knappach's back in 2 weeks, and we'll, I guess actually it'll be a little longer than 2 weeks, but in any event, we'll go from there. Ms. Hamilton, if you'll read next ordinance 2024-14, please.
Ordinance number 2024-14, an ordinance amending Chapter 539.04, liquor prohibited without a permit of the codified ordinances of the City of Worcester and allowing for immediate enactment.
All right, Ms. Hamilton, the floor is yours. I'm sorry, Ms. Warden, the floor is yours.
She'd probably like a break for a couple of minutes. Thank you. This is a request to extend the option to obtain a liquor permit for Freelander Chalet to their new patio area. And during our last meeting, Ms. Hirschberger explained how the patio would be a contained space and would include clear signage that states that alcohol may not be consumed outside of the boundaries of the chalet and the patio. I know, again, this is a piece that was originally sponsored by Ms. Knappich, and she was hoping to give the public an option to weigh in on this one as well. I personally haven't heard any feedback from the public about this, and personally I'm in support of it, but again, we don't have enough members here to vote this evening, so we're going to leave this on second reading.
Okay, any comments from the rest of council? If not, all right, we've had our second reading. And we'll now move into new business, which again, unfortunately, both the items that we have are non-budgeted, and since we don't have enough for enough for the vote, they will stay on first reading this evening. But with that, Ms. Hamilton, if you'll read ordinance 2024-15, okay.
Ordinance number 2024-15, an ordinance amending Part 11 zoning of the codified ordinances of the City of Worcester, Ohio to rezone land to C3 General Commercial for property located on the southeast corner of East Smithville Western and Cleveland Roads.
And this will be sponsored or presented by Ms. Warden.
Thank you again. So this ordinance is a request to change the zoning of about a half acre of property located on the south side of East Smithville Western Road and on the north side of Young Drive, all east of Cleveland Road, or on the east side of Cleveland Road. So it's where Dairy Queen is, for those of you who live here. It's probably the easiest description. Currently, the property is zoned R1 for single-family residential, and if passed, the resolution would change that to C3 or general commercial. The request comes from the Campbell Oil Company, which recently acquired the property, and they've stated in their request that they hope to remove the existing structures and rebuild a new Dairy Queen restaurant. Rezoning the property will allow them to build the new restaurant with enough room to accommodate the patron traffic, which I'm sure if you're from here, you know, especially on a warm day, the line gets really, really, really long. And we all wait in it sometimes too, which is fun. But rezoning the property is really going to be I think, a benefit to the neighbors up in that community, just because they'll not have to wait to pull into their, their streets and their driveways. Because the site is contiguous to a residential zoning district, any future development plans will require a review by the Planning Commission, and the site does need to meet all buffering, landscaping, and setback requirements. The request has been sent to us with unanimous recommendation of approval by the Planning Commission. But again, we're going to leave it on first reading, so if any members of the community have any comments, you've got a couple of weeks here that you can, yes, sir.
Well, and speaking of that, even if we had a full council here tonight, we'd have to leave it on first reading because it is a rezone that requires public hearing.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
And those notices, are not going to have, so there will be a public hearing before the next council meeting, which I think is 3 weeks away.
Okay. It will be, the public hearing will be held before the next council meeting, or you mean just like at the beginning of the meeting? I gotcha, okay. So yeah, I have nothing further. Any questions this time?
No, the site plan I saw shows 2 drive-through lines, which is going to be really helpful.
2 drive-through lines, and it looks like 3 entrances now, maybe one leading out to Smithville Western, which should also help.
Yeah, traffic issues.
Congestion.
It's hard to hold the Sunday, make that left turn. Not that I would know.
You need milkshakes.
Just sit there and enjoy your ice.
Yes, just to stay there. Chief Fisher would prefer us not to drive while ice creaming, yes.
Okay, well, with that, we've, ordinance 2024-15 has had its first reading. And our last item of new business this evening is Resolution 2024-30. If Ms. Hamilton will please read that for us.
Resolution number 2024-30, a resolution authorizing the Director of Administration to enter into a contract to participate in the ODOT Cooperative Purchasing Program and allowing for immediate enactment.
Ms. Warden, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So as we all know, this past winter was really mild, and we really did not use as much salt as we have perhaps in previous years. The city's snow and ice control operation applied about 1,500 tons of salt, and that's about 2,500 tons less than our yearly average. The cost was $53.34 per ton, and we currently have 4,800 tons in storage reserves. The Public Properties Maintenance Division hopes to purchase about 2,000 tons of salt in 2025 to help replenish our supply. And funding from this purchase will be included in the 2024 budget. But because of a recent invitation from ODOT, the city is coming to us to ask for permission to join ODOT in this pricing plan that would allow us to receive a more competitive rate and thus avoid paying higher prices, which I learned this in my previous term when I worked with public properties. It's a very unstable market. The salt market prices fluctuate, and depending on how far you are from the mine, your prices go up exponentially. So joining ODOT in this will give us a lot more security in our salt purchase. So I think I'll just put my recommendation in that we do go ahead and pass this, but we're going to leave it on first reading this evening.
Okay, yeah, unfortunately, we can't pass it because we don't have enough people, and ultimately, the worst part is ODOT threw this to us, a week ago?
Right.
Not even a week ago, so, yeah, it's unfortunate that they were so tardy in getting us to this, but at this point, yeah, it would be nice to take advantage of that, so.
Well, I did see, I know that the agreement needs to be submitted prior to our next council meeting,
Correct.
but I think that there is an opportunity to submit late.
We promised your part that we'd give it to them as soon as possible thereafter. We provided all the information that they required. They needed to know estimates of what we needed to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, well, with that, we have finished the agenda items. We'll move on to miscellaneous. We have a number of people that have signed up to speak in our miscellaneous section. We would respectfully ask that you're all an actual resident of the city of Wooster, and we're going to limit your time to 2 minutes. So with that, Doreen Miller.
Thank you. My name is Doreen Miller. I live in Wayne County and been a resident of Ohio my entire life. I'm a volunteer with United Sovereign Americans, not a spokesperson. United Sovereign Americans is a nationwide organization with thousands of active volunteers in over 20 states. Today, I come to you as a concerned citizen sharing alarming information about our state's voter database, uncovered through thousands of hours of research conducted by our highly qualified and credentialed data team. While the numbers are staggering and somewhat difficult to comprehend, one thing is clear: they don't add up. Just like your checkbook must balance, so must our votes. If you had $10,000 fewer dollars in your bank account than you had deposited, you would certainly want to know what happened. And if a company had that significant a discrepancy in its books, the company would most likely conduct an audit. In fact, yearly audits are required by law for all public companies. Our audit of the 2022 election, using only official data provided by state election officials, shows that the 2022 election may not have been accurate or legally compliant. We are not saying one candidate won over another or that any election should be overturned. The state's official data from a certified election shows that the votes as counted were not all valid and accurate under the law. Tonight we will present you with a resolution demanding an end to the inaccuracy and uncertainty plaguing our elections, along with a summary of our findings and the laws that apply. We're happy to meet with any of you or go over this information, including more detail about the specific findings. If you have questions that I cannot answer now, I will commit to getting you the answer in writing from the United Sovereign Americans executive team as soon as possible. The data and our request for an investigation have been shared with state election officials and law enforcement. It's essential that you, as our representatives, make it clear that these issues must be taken seriously. Today we come to you, our closest elected representatives, for support and action. We're asking that you listen to the resolution, ask questions if you have them, and then vote to support its passage. Your action on this resolution will illustrate your dedication and support to the concerns of your constituents and your country. Thank you. And our next three speakers will read the resolution in 3 parts, and our final speakers will conclude our presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mary Wood?
Resolution for legally valid 2024 general election. Whereas it's recognized civil right in the United States for every citizen to have free and fair elections, quote, and the right of suffrage can be denied by a debasement or dilution of the weight of a citizen's vote just as effectively as by wholly prohibiting the free exercise of the franchise. Reynolds versus Sims, 377 U.S. 533, 1964. Whereas it's the duty of our election officials to guarantee our elections are accurate and free from distortion or manipulation. Quote, Congress seeks to guard the election of members of Congress against any possible unfairness by compelling everyone concerned in holding the election to a strict and scrupulous observance of every duty devolved upon him while so engaged. The evil intent consists in disobedience to the law. In Ray Coy, 127 U.S. 731, 1888. Whereas our constitutional system of representative government only works when the following 4 tenets of an election are upheld. 1, the voter rolls must be accurate. National Voter Registration Act, 1993. Number 2, the votes counted must be from eligible voters. U.S. Constitution, 14th Amendment, Section 2. Number 3, the number of votes counted must equal the number of voters who voted. Number 4, there can be no more than 1 in 125,000 ballots in error by the voting system. Help America Vote Act, 2002. Whereas an open source audit of the Ohio 2022 general election conducted by Ohio State citizens has uncovered evidence of massive inaccuracies that violate both federal and state laws, including 1,046,431 ineligible or uncertain registration violations found within the Ohio State voter roll database. That's 1,046,431 46,431.
Thank you. Bonnie Kaufman. Is South Jefferson Road inside the city limits?
No, I actually live on Share Court. That's my farm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
Yes.
thought you were in
Yeah,
town.
yeah,
Okay.
in
All
Christmas
right.
area.
No worries.
Okay, so I want to go on with what we have uncovered. 602,631 votes cast by ineligible or uncertain registrants. 602,631 votes. 713,262 apparent voting violation in excess of the legal standard of system accuracy for a valid federal election. Maximum allowable system errors from the 2022 general election in Ohio was 34. There was 713,262 of these. Certification as defined by law and attestation of accuracy and compliance appears to have been fraudulent and illegal. Whereas these findings trample legal accuracy requirements of the voting system during a federal election. Accuracy is defined as the ability of the system to capture and report the specific selections and absence of selections made by a voter without error. Whereas the intent of the voters must be known factually before certification can be lawfully conducted. Certification of an election that varies from the law is an abridgment of the civil rights of the citizens, of fraud, ab initio. United States versus Throckmorton, 98 U.S. 61, 1878. From time memorial, an election to public office has been in point of substance, no more and no less than the expression by qualified electors of their choice of candidates. Quote, United States versus Classic, 313 U.S. 299, 1941. Whereas Ohio's 2022 general election appears to have been invalid, depriving us of the guaranteed protections of our natural rights under a government duty and provable chosen by us, the American people, resulting in incalculable damage to our families, our way of life, and the fabric of these United States.
Susan Sonnet.
Susan Sonnet from Wooster. And I wanted to add one more number that we didn't want to omit. 1,162,079 more votes counted than voters who voted in the 2022 general election at the time of certification. No one knows who cast them. Therefore, we call upon our representatives to provide relief to the people and assurance of domestic tranquility by joining us in demanding a valid 2024 general election that upholds the existing laws and equitable principles of law. Proof of citizenship and identity to register and vote, not anonymous attestation. 2, documented chain of custody on every ballot, regardless of entry source, maintained from voter to vote, count to final canvass. Secure ballots similar to currency. Where imaging technology is used for tabulation, the security features must be verifiable in the image. Voter rolls certified accurate 30 days before the start of early voting. Voters added and after that date must bring proof of citizenship, identity, and an address in person to a qualified official at each polling place. Systems, machines, security measures, procedures, infrastructure, policy, and conduct are required to be compliant with the law regarding certification, testing, operational validation, and operational implementation. Any breach will require an adequately strong audit to verify measured outcomes were within 10% of the margin of victory at a 95% probability. Scientifically randomized audit of real ballots must be performed and meaningfully witnessed, proving the error rate is smaller than 10% of the margin of victory. Otherwise, a fully witnessed hand recount must be performed. All parties with more than 10% of the vote shall have full and active, effective observation rights.
Mary Stoll. I see your address is West Hutton Road. That's not inside the city limits?
We do own property, the Downing Block Building on Market Street.
Okay.
Number 7, continuing the list, election operations and systems must maintain end-to-end chain of custody from voter to vote count to final canvass, including auditability and witness transfer with paper records. Number 8, adjudication must be signed off by party witnesses and candidate witnesses with full and effective observation rights. Candidates must be allowed immediate access to ballots, images, and CVRs. Candidates may agree to use party witnesses solely at their discretion. Number 9, end-to-end audits must be allowed by qualified, insured, and bonded security, forensics, or financial auditors. These shall not be personnel from within the election system. Reconciliation will include a vote count, ballots, adjudication, CVRs, ballot count, voter count, custody transfer, and all other paper and electronic systems, including system logs if applicable. The aggrieved party must be allowed to select their own auditor. And number 10, if the total of all unique variances above is more than 10% of the margin of victory, a new election must be held in the state for those candidates affected unless it can be provably corrected by a manual hand recount with a full review of records. Number 11, waiver of requirements is not allowed. Only end-to-end system compliance can guarantee the intent of the people is accurately recorded. Just obey the law. My name is Mary Stoll. I live in Wayne County, and I've been a resident of the state of Ohio all my life. You just heard, I'm also a volunteer and not an official spokesperson with the United Sovereign Americans. You just heard a powerfully written resolution outlining massive inaccuracies in our 2022 election, from registration through certification. In it, you heard us ask for meaningful remedies that will proactively protect the validity of the 2024 general election for all Americans. In fact, the resolution cited by many U.S. Supreme Court precedents, may I just finish my sentence? In fact, the resolution cited many U.S. Supreme Court precedents that support the need for such actions. Laws are being ignored.
Thank you. Thomas Wood?
I'm assuming you're going to wrap it up for us in a nice tight little bow?
Bottom line, the checkbook is not balancing, and we need certainty. The voting system which controls our most vitally important right, the right to choose our representatives, is not producing an accurate, trustworthy result. Do you think that these anomalies within our election system, a system which is part of our national security infrastructure, should continue to be ignored? How much is it costing us not to fix the problem? How much is it costing our GDP, our military, our foreign policy, our health, the self-esteem of our children and young people? And how much is it costing our dignity to keep fighting each other? The cost is immeasurable, so I urge you to show your agreement by passing the resolution. Our website showcasing our initiatives nationwide has some extremely informative videos that explain the anomalies and apparent violations of law that are found here in Ohio, as well as in other states. The website is unite4freedom.com. That's unite, the number 4, freedom.com. I encourage you to check it out and learn more about our organization. One more time, that's unite, the number 4, freedom.com. At the same time, government representatives at all levels are not being transparent or responsive to what our citizen audits have found. Our right to choose our representatives in legally valid and transparent elections is the foundation upon which our constitutional republic was established. That right has been bravely protected over the past 2.5 centuries by the sacrifices of our brothers, fathers, mothers, and sisters. You on this council have a chance to show everyone who defended American liberty and the citizens you represent that you value it also by passing this resolution simply demanding a valid general election in 2024. We appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you very much. And our last individual, Catherine Ritchie.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Ritchie. First, I apologize for my casual wear. I'm a mom of 3 teenagers and came straight from a track meet. I bet no one has ever said that, racing to a city council meeting. I'm a resident of Jesse Owens Drive, which is located in Spring Run. First, I want to thank Mayor Reynolds for acknowledging the multiple failures in communication regarding the road condition on Oak Hill. Most in the city likely did not realize the issue, as it is truly now residents, delivery people, construction workers, the trash truck, and future residents of Wooster trying to visit the model home. I felt even worse for the road sandwiched between Milltown and Cadiz Lane. There was no communication from the city that the road would be in the condition it became. We were all operating under the annoyance to get to the north end. My teenagers were annoyed they might have to go a little further to get Chipotle. Clearly, we've been spoiled after living near the college. My main point is the lack of communication to those directly affected. March 25th, construction began. The website post about that was minimal, never indicating the entire road would be missing. This is a posted 292-day project, not 2 weeks, not a month. The roads got worse for over 2 weeks, sometimes by the hour. My frustration was the patience our neighborhood gave to the city to remedy this, and it took 2 weeks. If this was such a major project, I would have expected the city to see the issue firsthand, not from phone calls and emails. I understand the rain did not help. However, had this been remedied from the beginning, this wouldn't have been an issue. We wouldn't have literally had our cars scraping from Jesse Owens to the Alice Noble parking lot. A resident had to cancel a furniture delivery twice and consider canceling altogether. A mom with a newborn got stuck trying to get home. This is not the image the city wants for a brand new neighborhood. Friday, April 12th, rocks were put down. Better, not ideal. A letter was hand-delivered from city staff Friday afternoon. A mailed letter arrived in the mail today. Really? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. With that, Mr. Abernathy, do you have anything to add this evening?
I think a lot was said today. Thank you for everybody who came and voiced some very strong opinions. So we're going to leave it at that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gaffey.
Again, I concur with Mr. Abernathy. Just really appreciate the public coming out and the involvement. I think that's one of the things that is very important here is public involvement. So thank you for coming out and taking your time to do that. That's about it.
All right, Ms. Warden.
Yeah, thank you for everyone coming out. Ms. Ritchie, hopefully you're able to chat with some of the members of the administration to finish what you were trying to convey tonight. I can appreciate your frustration. I've spoken with a few people up there, and yeah, the whole situation is very unfortunate, and for what it's worth, I apologize that you had to endure that. So, but I have nothing more to add. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Malta.
I feel the same. Thank you all for coming. We don't normally see this very often, so we appreciate it. We are representing you, the people, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Myers.
I want to thank Mr. Malta for coming this evening and expressing his opinions and sharing his history with the Christmas Run Pool. I want to thank all of the folks here this evening for bringing forth this very important and enlightening information. I'll go look at the Unite for Freedom website. Hopefully learn a little bit more about it. As you are aware, based on the resolution, you know that we don't really have a whole lot to do with the elections that's run by the county, but we appreciate you giving us this information and enlightening us. And Catherine, I appreciate you coming by. I appreciated you sharing this with me earlier in the week as well. So we glad the city is looking after taking care of it, and hopefully you can get home. So thank you very much. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.